Hello friends, far and wide, Damon Hatfield here. E3, also known as the best week ever to gamers, is right around the corner and it will soon bestow upon us gifts of video game announcements. This is going to be a bigger than normal E3 with a lot of focus on next generation consoles. Today, we're going to talk Sony's E3 plans with Colin Moriarty, Greg Miller, and Andrew SF Supco Goldfarb. This is E3 2013 Game Watch Sony Edition.
E3 2013 Game Watch Sony.
Hi guys. So, what is everyone looking forward to? Let's start with my friend Greg.
We're more than friends, we're hetero life mates. What I'm excited to see at this E3 is going to be Killzone Shadowfall. And I haven't been a big first-person shooter fan. A lot of people know that about me. But Killzone 2 I loved, and then Killzone 3 felt so derivative. It didn't feel right. It felt like, if anything, Killzone 2.5, and I wasn't at all interested in it. But seeing at the PlayStation 4 debut event, they showed this new Killzone trailer, and it seems like they're taking it in a new way. They're going in a new direction with this first-person shooter that I can get behind, right? They're jumping ahead 30 years. They're putting the Helghast and the ISA on the same planet. There's just one wall separating these two guys who've been living, these two factions of people who've been living there since the events of Killzone 3, right? So it's like all of a sudden moving into your biggest enemy, your greatest threat, and trying to, you know, have the same ecosystem, which clearly explodes in this like world that's actually colorful and bright and not just the sandy red eyes that we've seen so many times.
Do we worry about it not being Killzone 4? That is sort of an offshoot, like God of War Ascension, right? That
Sure.
was a little bit. We were a little underwhelmed.
No, for me, this is one of the things that Sony's doing smartly. A good position for them to be in with the PlayStation 4 is the fact that I think if they launched with something that said Killzone 4, it said Infamous 3, the problem would be that you come out and have people pick up the game and go, oh, I didn't play the first two, I don't need to play. I'm going to be lost in the story. What they're doing right now is almost rebooting these franchises without doing it, right? Killzone jumps 30 years in the future. Those events had something to do with it. I'm sure we'll learn a little bit as we go, but it's about the characters that are in the game now and their progression and their story. So you come in and actually don't lose any mind share, any cachet, right? I've heard about Killzone before. Maybe I don't know if it was good or if it was bad, but I know that it's been a franchise that's been around for a while and is known for stunning visuals, being a strong first-person shooter, if not super impressive. Let's jump in and see what they're doing on a new platform.
Colin, how about you?
I think Killzone's a great choice, a fine choice.
Thank you.
Even. But I think I'm most excited about Infamous Second Son from Sucker Punch. This is a third-person, sandbox game. Of course, we got two Infamous games on PS3 in 2009 and 2011. And this is not really the continuation of Cole's story from the first two Infamous as much as it's a story of a new character. Delson Rowe is his name. He's Native American. The game takes place in Seattle, so it's the first time the game actually takes place in a real city as opposed to kind of a fictional city based on New Orleans or New York City. And it's just really exciting to kind of see Sucker Punch get back into what they're best at. These guys made Sly Cooper back in the PS2 days, but this is all they've done since then. And it made sense. Greg and I used to talk a lot about it. Will they do something else? Will Sucker Punch kind of move on and do something else? Especially because Infamous 2 kind of ends conclusively. So I'm happy that they're moving on to kind of continue Infamous on a new generation. And that kind of gameplay that we know and love, I'm sure, is going to be there. So it's really exciting to have that game back.
And lastly, Mr. Goldfarb.
Yes, Damon.
What are you excited for?
I'm excited for Drive Club, which is weird for me because I'm not even really a racing guy. And Killzone and Infamous sound great. But for me, what's cool about Drive Club is that it feels, to me, the most next gen of the games Sony showed off in February. Meaning, so Drive Club is this first-person racing game from Evolution Studios, which people know as like the MotorStorm team. But this game's been gestating for like 10 years at the studio, and they brought in people from like Codemasters who worked on Grid. They have people ex-Polyphony from Gran Turismo. They have people who worked on like all these other big racing games. And what's cool about it is that like they're focusing on realism. They're focusing on the reasons first-person is because I think they said during the show they're being borderline insane about keeping it realistic. And why that's cool is because like everything will look incredible and will feel next gen. More importantly, you're always connected, right? You're kind of like Need for Speed Most Wanted. You're interacting with your friends. Like everything you're doing, you can form these drive clubs, you can team up, you can like do these challenges that you create. I think everything about it sounds really interesting.
That's where the name comes from.
Yeah,
Drive
exactly.
Club, you form them and you go.
But I mean, the name's a good point, right? Like again, this, just like they're rebooting those franchises, like this isn't a sequel. This is something brand new. This is something that they're launching a new system with. And like, we don't know if it'll be available at launch, but it's something that is a new franchise for a new generation. And to me, that's like what this kind of jump is all about. So I'm excited.
Beautiful. And of course, Sony isn't the only one showing off a new console this year. What does Sony need to do to own the next-gen space and make people forget about the next Xbox?
keep doing what they're doing. Come out. What they need to do is come out swinging, right? We've named 3 games here that a majority of people at home might be going, I don't care about any of those games. And I think it was a strategic step to set it up this way. Sony came out and fired first, said, here's our system, let's focus on the controller, let's not show you the box, let's talk about all the little blue things we can drop on to this world. Okay, great. But it got gamers like us excited. But when you go home and you talk to people who aren't big gamers, they go, okay, but what do I play on it? You're like, oh,
can I play Call of Duty?
Infamous, Killzone, and like but now you figure Microsoft comes out, they're gonna say, here's our next box, here's a trailer for Call of Duty, here's a trailer for Gears of War, here's something that is totally Microsoft, right? They steal the headlines until E3, and at E3, Sony gets to come out and say, here's the box, here's a trailer for Uncharted 4, here's something with God of War, here are our biggest franchises now connected to this box that you were excited for a second ago.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think Greg and I often beat the drum of exclusives on PlayStation. That so Nintendo and Microsoft cannot touch Sony in terms of number of great exclusives. They can't, and a lot of that has to do with the studios that Sony owns. Now, Sony had shut down 3 of their old studios that were kind of underperforming or underwhelming lately, but that leaves 12 studios that are making all of these great games for them, and we only know about what a few of them are doing. Studio Japan's working on Knack, and Sucker Punch is working on Infamous, and Guerrilla's working on Killzone, and Evolution's working on Drive Club. But what's what's Sony Bend doing? What's Naughty Dog doing? What's Sony Santa Monica doing? What's Sony San Diego doing? There's all of these, Media Molecule, Sony London. Like there's all of these studios that we don't know what they're doing yet, and that's like what's most exciting about it is almost the unknown about what these guys will bring to the table, because these guys only make PlayStation games. Of course, we can't forget about Vita too. The Vita and the PS4 are going to be very intimately connected with each other, and I think that very intimately connected. And I think that what Greg was saying is basically right. Focus on the gamer and the games, and the people will come. I think that even when PS3 came out in 2006, 2007, even at its high price point, it still sold exceptionally well considering how expensive it was, because that PlayStation name means something. And so now that they have momentum at the end of this generation, I think they just have to keep going with the games.
I completely agree. I mean, I think it is about games for Sony, and you guys summed it up well. Like, Sony has all of these exclusives, and Microsoft will come out. I mean, the franchises they have right now, they're exclusive. It's Fable, Gears, Halo. Like, that's about it. And
nobody cares about those.
Yeah, but I mean, people care about them. But what Microsoft is going to play up is all the entertainment. They're going to play up what you can do with the system, how you can interact with people. Sony can counter that, right? Sony has Gaikai. You can stream games, you can connect with this crazy ecosystem they're going to create, and on top of that, they have like the power of PlayStation Plus, which is something we've always talked about as this incredible deal that not that many people know about. And if they can get that out there to the public, make people realize what a good deal they're getting, that's amazing. Like, I mean, they can offer so much to gamers, and they need to emphasize that like Microsoft is where you go if you want to, watch a movie with your family or whatever. Sony is where you go if you want to have a gaming experience, be connected with people, get the best value, have the most games available.
But is there anything else that you guys are excited about?
I think the major player here is actually going to be Gran Turismo 6.
Sure.
This is a PlayStation 3 game, which I think is surprising to a lot of people. I think people are confused with Drive Club coming to PS4 in the launch window, how this game is going to work in the ecosystem. I think it's a brilliant move to sell, one of the best-selling franchises of all time on PlayStation consoles. And by the way, Gran Turismo 5 is the best-selling game by far out of Sony's first-party stable on PS3. So I think this is a way for them to push more PS3s out the door. And we can't forget that when the PS4 comes out, the PS3 is going to get a massive price cut, no doubt, and be going out the door. And so having a game of that caliber from Polyphony Digital, I think is actually one of the most exciting and underlooked things about what Sony's going to be doing this fall.
I think Vita also, I mean, you mentioned that Vita is going to intimately tie in with the PS4, but Vita itself is getting great games. They're getting, tying in with Killzone, they're getting Killzone Mercenary, which is the first-person shooter on the system from a first-party studio. We've had 2 disastrous attempts with Call of Duty and with Resistance, but this is going to be like, this game has the pedigree. This has Guerrilla behind it. It could be incredible, and like on top of that, Media Molecule's new IP, we have Tearaway, we have all these cool things coming to Vita, all these indie games. Like, I think this is going to be finally the year when that system can shine as well, and I think Sony will show that off pretty hardcore at E3.
Greg, play us out.
Oh man, we better have Patapon, right? I don't care if it's a Patapon HD collection, there should be a Patapon 4 on the Vita, Patapon with trophies. All I'm asking for is a little Patapon. Give it to me, Colin.
Thanks a lot, guys. Now for you, audience, head to the link below to see the most up-to-date list of games that are confirmed for E3, and don't forget to tell us what you're excited about in the comments. E3 happens the week of June 10th, and we will have more game watches in the weeks leading up to the madness, so keep it on IGN.